Hey, welcome to the Lifestyle Creation Podcast, designing life on your terms. I'm your host, Jamie Thurber, and I'm an expert operations manager, productivity queen, mindset, business, and lifestyle coach. Basically, getting shit done is my jam. And I believe in the power of intentional living and in real conversations that can shift your perspective, create habits, and ultimately achieve the freedom that you want in every area of your life. What's up, guys? Welcome back to the podcast. This is Jamie. Thank you for being here. If this is your first time, welcome. Welcome to our show and welcome to our little world of intentional living. I hope that you like it here. And as always, I wanted to start really quickly with reminding you to release any tension that you're holding in your face and in your shoulders. Take a deep breath and drop them down, and then get comfortable or drive or do whatever you're doing, and let's dive into another conversation. Today, I want to talk about ass pats and high fives. I'm kidding. Actually, no, I'm not kidding. Let me explain. So I know that a lot of the big promotional speakers and motivators in the interwebs, so like Instagram and, a lot of those video clips that you see from YouTube and things like that, very like rah type stuff. There's a lot of like, well, I'm real because I don't, give ass pats and high fives. Like if you're walking around expecting me to give you ass pats and high fives, then like I'm not the right person, and more power to them, right? Like much respect, do what you're going to do. But at the same time, like, I think a big problem that we have in the world is with statements that make people believe that their accomplishments aren't worthy of acknowledgement. And when I say this comes from me working with several men and women personally and one-on-one and behind closed doors where they're, comfortable to say these things to me. And there's a lot of question and am I enough? Am I doing enough? Or none of this is worth, recognition when people are doing actually really big fucking things, right? So what I was thinking, I saw something not too long ago, and this has been an ongoing conversation, right? Like people do this. This is something that's been being used in the interwebs, in the world of motivational speaking and coaching. There's a lot of people who say this for a long while. And I just recently had seen something that was talking about this is the kind of coach I am. I don't hand out ass pats and high fives. If that's what you're looking for, this isn't the right place. I give you went on to talk about giving you real conversations and, real information and even if it's a harsh reality, things like that. And so here's the deal. Especially if you guys have been here, if you've been following me for a while or you know anything about the way that I do life, I am the first person always to bring things to light, to share the truth, to not beat around the bush, to always be very upfront and open about truth, real fucking truth, not truth with a price tag or truth with an ulterior motive to make me look cool, feel good, you feel like shit, you pay more money to me, whatever it might be, right? None of those attachments to come with it. And the other part is delivering the truth in a compassionate and constructive fashion. What I've learned over the years is that this is not something that a lot of people do. You've heard me talk previously about, people use being honest as an excuse to be an asshole. And it's no, actually, if you think that in order to speak truth or be honest with other people, then that gives you a permission slip to be a jerk. That tells me a lot about you. It tells me a lot about where you're at, what you're willing to digest, how well you understand yourself and other humans, or the opinions that you're having towards another person. A lot of that quote unquote truth that's delivered in that fashion is pure fucking judgment. It's judgment that comes from the person who's saying it's insecurities in a lot of ways. Because when you're delivering truth to someone from a place of purity and a place of just, being compassionate and having the desire to help them, or, to answer their question in a way that's constructive, there's no ego or judgment attached, at all. And when it's shared that way, the compassion is just naturally attached to it, you know? So it was funny as I was like, back to my original statement, I was hearing the whole like, oh, I don't, when I saw the ass pats and high fives, and I was like, what if I told you that I give ass pats and high fives and hold you accountable and have the uncomfortable conversations and, call you out on your shit when you need to be called out on it and help you then find a way to be better or move through it or figure out what it is that's causing the shit to begin with, right? I think that it's a fucked up thought process that you can't have both. And I think that they need to go hand in hand more frequently. I feel like the personal development world would be much more, I almost said lucrative, which isn't true. I don't think it would be as lucrative because a lot of people make a lot of money off of sharing just enough to get you to continue to need them, or just enough to break you down, but not the other half of it, right? And that's why it's such a profitable industry for a lot of people, is because you are getting kind of manipulated into different types of conversations, right? Well, what if, I think the success rate of the personal development industry would be higher if this always went hand in hand, that you gave recognition and you pointed out growth and you pointed out the good pieces and you pointed out the parts where somebody is recognizing something different about themselves. Their self-awareness is higher. Their ability to communicate is changing. Like those things that seem small, that are fucking huge signs of growth and huge signs of this stuff really making sense and starting to digest. And also being able to hold somebody accountable to the things that they say they're going to do, and hold them accountable to the way that they say they're going to live and the things that they claim that they want. It's those uncomfortable conversations to have, because accountability in a lot of cases is uncomfortable for a lot of people, at least in the beginning, right? In the beginning, to have someone call you out on your shit that you didn't do doesn't feel super great. Like, it's a thing. But it's also part of the same conversation. And I think like I said, I think it's extremely important to acknowledge our wins. I'll tell you that I have worked with some extremely successful, knowledgeable, talented, kind humans that do really good at life. And more often than not, they don't acknowledge one of the fucking good things that they're doing. They could make a bunch of money and they don't acknowledge that. There's always more. They could be an amazing boss, wife, husband, dad, have those types of moments. And it's like it passes faster in their heads than it does in real life. And the acknowledgement of the worth piece there is not made. It's not pointed out. It's not sunk in. And so I think a lot of that is the result of us being broken down and always told from everywhere that you should be better. And it's a fine line. Don't get me wrong. Like, I don't believe in the, let me just give you an award for existing. Like, but then at the same time, I feel like you were born fucking worthy. Like, you woke up this morning worthy of whatever it is that you want. And it's all a choice to go out and have it, right? It's also a choice and a direct result of choices and mindsets to not have it. And so it's like a very tricky place that I think people get it really twisted, because it's difficult for some to fully grasp and acknowledge the depth that comes along with really fully understanding the balance of all of this. There's a depth that comes along with understanding the balance and understanding that it's really holistic. Like, it really all needs to go hand in hand and be this wheel of intentional living, like I talk about, right? Or this wheel of that all feeds into each other. And the fact that, like, accomplishing things, giving yourself high fives, acknowledging that you're fucking awesome in the places that you're fucking awesome, doesn't mean that you then stop being and doing the things that you're supposed to be being and doing, or that that are part of your responsibilities. And that's where I think it gets twisted. It either goes really extreme one end or the other. And we're told, like, well, if you're acknowledging your wins, then you're obviously being this or that or lazy or whatever. And it's like, well, what the fuck? Like, no. What a damaging thought process, right? Like, what a problem in the world when we're being told that when we're celebrating our wins, big or small, it's not worth it. Like, that's not, we should be doing something else. And it's like, wait a minute, when did we get so twisted in this? Like, when did this get so twisted up? I think that there's a time and a place for people to get broken down and then built back up. You know, like, I've been in relationships with a lot of people that have been in the military, several. Somehow, like, I have a beacon magnet for men specifically that have been through that. I have some special way of really understanding and supporting them, friends, acquaintances, and, you know, ex-boyfriends that I'm still super fucking close with because of that, actually. And I know that when you go through boot camp and you're being built into a Marine or whatever your position is, a soldier, whatever, they break you down mentally and emotionally and physically. And then they build you up in a way that prepares you for war, right? Which I think is necessary. Now, I could go on and on and on for a long time about the fucking places that they fail, and when they decide to put you back into the world and back into the regular life. Like, I could go on forever, and it enrages me the way that we treat our veterans. But anyways, that's not the point of this conversation. But what I'm getting at is, like, there's a time and a place to be broken down. I even believe a bit in some of the programs that you see that really break through the levels of trauma and lies and conditioning and programming, because I break through programming with my clients all the time. But here's the difference. It is very much so, in my opinion, irresponsible to break someone down without the intention and ability to then build them back up and support them while they build themselves back up. Because what the fuck? You just rocked someone's whole world and made them raw and then just sent them home? What? Like, no. Like, example, live events, people do this a lot. They'll rip somebody apart, which is awesome. Live events have the ability to do that. But then if you're not offering support afterwards, granted, not everyone's going to take your support, but that's also why I don't personally do super large events, because it makes my heart sad to think that I'm going to break some people down and have some breakthroughs with people, and then not have the space to support them afterwards, as they're like, holy shit, what the fuck do I do now? You know, kind of thing. But then also there's the other thing that does that is a lot of different, teachings in general. It's like, these are all the things that are wrong with you, and you're like, oh my God, what the fuck? And then there's no second round to help you then sort and deal with the things that were uncovered and the things that came up for you. So part of what I'm explaining this entire thing is that that's, I think, why a lot of people don't value themselves as much as they should on a deep level. People will walk around and claim that they value their time and they value their work and they're great at what they do and all this stuff. But when you really get deep into it, a lot of the patterns, a lot of the self-sabotage, a lot of the internal fears and doubts and defense mechanisms come from being broken down and not built, like not having the support while you're building back up, or not actually like making that a priority or knowing how to do it, because we're not taught that very much. You know, it happens in rehabs. They do that properly in a good way. Most of them, not all of them. You know, it happens in there are plenty of things that do that. Like, I have a new friend actually that I spoke with about a program that she's doing for successful women who are looking for a different caliber of romantic relationships. And the program that she's doing is fucking killer, because what she's doing is they are literally breaking down and getting to the bottom of all of the patterns and where they're coming from and all of that. And then she's bringing in practitioners to clear the energy and do the therapy and do the things that they need to fully fucking uncover and clear that shit out of their energetic space. And then she's there to help them build up, rewrite their stories, decide what they're going to do from there, all of that stuff, and get them prepared and armed basically with what they need and to know and built back up to go back out there and be whole. And that's the whole thing, like the whole picture. It's funny, in my notes I have the whole picture, the holistic approach, like we're a whole being. Like I have all of that written down and in my notes. And it's funny because like the truth of the matter is that I don't know how many people actually think about being whole. Instead, they think about filling spaces with a partner or a job or income or kids or dogs. Like, let's be real. We all fill voids in our lives with things or other humans. I feel like we're taught that. All of my dogs, let's be real. Every dog I own was or that I've owned personally I acquired when I was in a bad spot. I needed something to put my love and attention into because I wasn't really happy in the other places. I didn't know it very much at the time, but I look now and I'm like, that's pretty entertaining. You know, like I got Axel when I was the summer before my senior year in high school, and my boyfriend at the time I loved him and I wanted to believe that he was good, and he just was not. Like, he was a jerk. He was a jerk in so many ways. Our friends were intertwined, our families were intertwined, and I loved him, and I really thought that was going to be it, right? Well, I got Axel, and Axel was a fulfillment for me and continued to be until he died a few years ago. And then when I got Bonnie, my little Boston, she was acquired during a rough spot in a relationship with another guy. She was acquired because his dog didn't like to snuggle and he was kind of like a raw, like rough dog. And he was working over the road. Well, not over the road. He was on a tugboat, right? So he was gone a lot, and I needed something to care for and love and nurture differently. So I acquired Bonnie, and now best fucking thing I've ever done in my life. Like, Bonnie is literally my like spirit animal. She is my familiar. She is the best thing ever, right? But same thing with Mac. Mac was acquired during a time when I was deciding whether I was going to have babies or not. And I was feeling really not creeped out, but like deep in that decision. He came into my world because I needed him. I know plenty of friends and acquaintances who have done this with kids. How many people do you know who have had a baby because they thought it was going to make something better? Or got married because they thought it was going to make it better? Or moved because they thought it was going to make it better? Or bought a boat or a house or whatever it was because they thought it was going to make it better. It was going to make them whole. Well, guess what? None of that shit makes you whole. No human being is going to make you whole. If you are looking for a partner to make your life whole, it's not a great idea. I highly suggest that you take a step backwards and reapproach later, because the only thing that makes your life whole is you choosing to work on all of these areas, fulfill all of these areas for yourself, and look at the big picture in that way. So it really breaks itself down into this interesting thought pattern when we go from the beginning of this conversation to where we are now, right? Like, really, truly, where are you not allowing yourself to view your accomplishments and successes? Where are you allowing yourself to stay broken down in places where you probably don't need to be broken down anymore, right? Like, all you're doing is torturing yourself for no reason. And so that's the thought, is we have this ability to then recognize and think about holy crap, where am I doing this to myself, or where I'm allowing someone else to do this to me? And how can I now adjust and shift that? So I think my hope here from this conversation and from sharing these different, stories and angles from this on this conversation, I think that I'm going to keep elaborating on this in different episodes as we go on. But I think my whole point here was to kind of bring some of that stuff to the surface, and hopefully if there is something that now you feel like needs to be addressed or adjusted or focused on differently, you have this as kind of a resonating moment in order to bring that to light. And if not, I know that these types of conversations are things that sit well inside of us and will serve us well in future situations. So that's definitely my whole objective and point to this podcast episode specifically, as a whole, is for us to start to look at our worlds as a whole picture and work on making ourselves whole and decisions and responsibilities based upon, us as a person. And that does not, some people think that's selfish, but it's not. Like, you being whole as a human allows you to serve the people in your lives and be better for them in such amazing, amazing ways. And it's definitely a game changer. It's a game changer. So with this topic, I feel like it's a little heavy and potentially. So if anything came up for you, if you have any questions, please feel free to email me. I'm always open to give some feedback or just listen. So you can email me anytime at me@jamiethurber.com. My email is listed below. And as always, thank you for listening. If you enjoyed the podcast, please share this with somebody that you think would benefit from it and like it too. If you share on social, be sure to tag us. And if you like these kinds of conversations and you're looking for something more like this on a regular basis, or a place to plug in and have a little bit more in-person one-on-one access to me and this type of teachings regularly, we do this weekly inside of Operation Do. Every Thursday I teach a live training on a different area of life and the whole intentional living, a holistic approach of the way that I do life and business. And so each week is something else. And then also by joining, you have access to over 300 previous trainings. There's a whole library of that there that then you also have access to, as well as the group and questions and things that you can ask directly to me at any time. If you're interested in that, the link is here below, but it's jamiethurber.com/operation-do. We'd love to have you there. Have an awesome day, guys.